All right, here we go.
My namaskars to all devotees gathered here. And I'm so happy to see the enthusiasm here in Mumbai. The topics given to me also are excellent, actually. So today we are going to mainly discuss happiness and all the happiness that the knowledge of happiness that we need to know.
Sound okay?
It is there in Thakur's life. What is greater than Thakur's life? Tell me. It's the living demonstration of what our Vedas and Upanishads, our Yoga Sutras, what they are speaking of. The living demonstration, the embodiment of that is in Thakur's life. So even our study of happiness, the science of happiness, whatever we want to study, you can draw it directly from that great life. There are 3 photos of Thakur available. All 3 photos have him in Samadhi. Please see this. It was his natural state. Even going close to that state, a little bit of an idea of that state, and you can draw enormous laws in spiritual life, an enormous understanding of what is happiness, from what does it come, and what are the factors involved. Or কি করতে হবে ওটা পাওয়ার জন্য, what do you exactly do to do that? Everything you can get from that great life. In fact, when I was initially asked to we had a whole course on this science of happiness in IIT Delhi. Then I only meditated on Thakur and his face and his state, and you can derive all the knowledge from that, because really that was a mind that was constantly in touch with that state. From that state you have all the gems of wisdom from in the Kathamrit and all these books. So it is actually showing you what is the state to be aimed at, what is the purpose of human life. তিনি এত সোজা করে বলে দিতেন ঠাকুর, the very purpose of human life is God realization, Ishwar darshan. So everything is available to us. Now we will acutely analyze each one of this so as to make it into a science and try to understand why are we chasing the wrong things and getting these experiences which we don't want. What is it that the human mind should be going after? Where lies the highest happiness? We will try to derive equations for all these through this study, so that our analytical mind is convinced of certain facts. দেখুন ঠাকুর এত সোজা করে বলে দিচ্ছেন, there are 3 levels of happiness available to the human being. What are the 3 levels? আপনারা তো পড়েছেন নিশ্চয়ই. You have read about it in Kathamrit. Vishayanand, first level, then Bhajananand, then Brahmanand. These are the 3 levels of happiness available to the human experience. Now, you can see clearly this is like a vertical ladder. First is Vishayanand. এখন Vishayanand, তার characteristics কি? What is the nature of this Vishayanand and why it forms the lowest rung of the ladder? This is something we should understand originally by ourselves. So let us analyze what kind of an experience the senses give us. You see, usually sense experience is very, very fleeting. It doesn't last long.
Okay. Let's see. We want to hit a gallery view.
It is very temporary, very transient.
Where is it? This is different than mine.
It's because we have the YouTube video big, sharing
I
of
see.
screen, so you have to
Okay, good.
it's not as easy to stop it as we might like for it to be.
Everybody, we're working on it.
Yeah, can you just do it like that and talk to them?
Well, is there a way to get gallery view where we see all of the different people? We're working on it, and although this might seem clumsy, we're learning as we go. So when we do this in the future, it'll be quick and beautiful.
And just a note to everybody, if anybody needs translating any of the Bangla she's saying at times, I'll be able to do that.
That's all we get with the share screen.
Okay. This is good enough, or this is where we are today. So does anybody have any comments on what's been said before so far about the different levels of happiness, the purpose of human life? What is happiness? What is joy? How do you get there? And so on. Maybe not.
I think she'll explain further that what are those three levels a little bit more.
Okay.
Just now, I think she told us that what is the three levels and to start with, and then I think she'll explain that.
Okay.
I have, excuse me, hello,
We can hear you.
one request. Please let her speak, finish what she has to say. And I would appreciate if no interruption, no questions in the middle of her talk. We can ask later.
Okay. So we have different people wanting different things. Some of us thinking it'd be good to play the whole thing. Some of us thinking it'd be good to stop in the middle of the talk. Normally Shankara would just decide these things. But I guess, what do other people think? Would you rather hear the whole thing, or would you rather break for comments as we go?
Not in the middle.
Any other opinions?
I think, Tom, this is Haima. I think if somebody has a doubt, maybe you can stop and then clarify the doubt and then move on again with her lecture.
That
Because-
interrupts the flow. So
Yeah.
they can hold on to the question, and after it's over, we can discuss.
I agree with that, but they may forget what the matter was. That's what I was concerned about. Just a thought. You think about it, Tom and Umaji.
I don't want to be the decider.
Can I make a little, can I interject something here?
Yes, sure.
I really understand that people absorb these things differently and are going to have different opinions. But I would just say, let this time through, the people who decided and took the initiative to do this, do it the way they want to do it. And that's Jyoti. And, I'm not saying, Uma, at all that there's anything invalid about what you're saying. It's just,
Exactly.
Usually we wouldn't have anything if Brother Shankara were not here. And he said also, Jyoti, I didn't tell you this, to just convey his appreciation for your taking this initiative. He thinks this was a wonderful idea. I told him about the stopping and starting as people wanted to or had a question, and he was all for that. So in a way, he's definitely given that format his blessing. And we can do it differently in the future if we need to. Hopefully we won't need to very often, but that's my 2 cents, just to let it go rather than debating how we're going to do it.
Yeah, and I'll share something if I may. I think maybe if we do it, let it go for 15 minutes. And because if everybody has the chance to stop and start, we'll be stopping every 5 minutes. And I personally would prefer to hear a stretch rather than the stopping and starting. The stopping and starting that Shankara does, he has it planned. Like he has a concise thought and then asks for discussion around that thought. So it's not in the middle of something. This lady's talk is planned to be an hour and not for people to stop and start in the middle of her talk.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of personally under the thought of Uma, let us do the talk. If you can't remember your question, write it down. Those people at home can jot a note down, and I can give people here paper to jot a note, and then we have discussion afterwards. That's my personal thought.
And that sounds good to me. And
Yeah.
also, this is a great experience. We're learning to function as a democracy when Brother Shankara is not here. So this is all good.
Okay, thank you.
Proceed.
Okay, carry on, Jyoti Ji, Jyoti Ma, whatever I am.
Well, if you can take an example, suppose we love rasgullas. You have 2, 3 maybe 4, তারপরে আর খাওয়া যায় না। Then after that, actually overindulgence causes revulsion. Any form of sense experience is like that. First of all, it is very transient, not long lasting. এটা clear করে দিতে হয়. You must make it clear to your mind. And then secondly, it is of the nature of an addiction. Once you have the experience, your mind will want to go into it again and again, although you know it is not long lasting. It gives a very temporary, fleeting form of joy. Still, the mind will want to go after it. And thirdly, there is a hedonistic paradox here. You know, all the excitement, the happiness of eating a rasgulla is in the expectation of getting great happiness. Once you have had the experience, your mind never gets absorbed in the experience. It moves to the next thing available. Rasgulla khawar pore amra bhabo ar ki ache. What else is there for me to experience? It doesn't get absorbed in any sense object. This is the nature of the human mind. And this is the nature of the object of sensory experience. Your mind will not stand on it beyond a certain point. That is why it is a fleeting experience. So what is this? It is called the hedonic treadmill. This is a solid concept in the study of happiness today. The happiness born out of an object, a sensory object, all the excitement is in the anticipation of expectation of great happiness. Once the object is experienced, the mind will never get absorbed in it. It moves on to the next object immediately. Ar ki ache. So this is the nature of all sensory level of experience. Yet we invest great energy, great excitement, lot of time in it. Why? We have not reflected on the nature of this experience. Diminishing marginal return bole ache na? That same thing happens even in this, the experience of happiness. You put in your full investment, it will always, there'll be a diminishing return. The final result will be dissatisfaction, because it's an addiction, it results in overindulgence, and then only revulsion for the object. This is the case with every sensory experience. এটাকে scientifically observe করলে আমরা clearly বুঝতে পারবো this is not a fulfilling experience. It is a time pass. Maybe the mind wanted to indulge in something and you just gave permission for that to happen. But it is not absorbing, nor is it fulfilling. And it is very temporary. So it is not worth having. সেই জন্যে তো ওই আমাদের আরতির গানে আছে না, বঞ্চনা কাম কাঞ্চনা অতিনিন্দিত ইন্দ্রিয় রাগ, ঠাকুরের সম্বন্ধে বলা হচ্ছে। It is being said that this is the lowest rung of the ladder of joy. Now, if you invest all your energy into it, you get a very small chunk of human experience, a very small bite. And what is more, it's difficult to climb the ladder. So understanding the science of happiness means understanding there are higher rungs of the ladder available to us and committing ourselves to climbing this ladder, understanding the nature of joy at this level and moving on to the next level. Next level, there are intellectual joys. There is the great joy of bhakti, যেটাকে ঠাকুর ভজনানন্দ বলতেন. This joy is a longer lasting joy, more fulfilling joy. It's an absorptive joy. It absorbs your mind. Whatever absorbs your mind, yogically we say, from the standpoint of yoga, amra boli, it creates the sajatiya ekagra vritti pravaha in the mind, which means your vrittis and your pratyais. I will explain to you what it means. They become very orderly, very beautiful. The mind gets into a very orderly state, a very stable state, and that state itself gives you a lot of happiness. So bhakti naturally puts you into that state. এখন বৃত্তির মানেটা কি? What is the meaning of vritti? কেন আমরা বলছি sajatiya ekagra vritti pravaha gives you happiness, bhakti gives you happiness? এটা আমরা কেন বলছি? Because দেখুন, বৃত্তির মানে হলো whenever you perceive something, your mind falls on something, the mind undergoes a modification. It's like a fluctuation, inner fluctuation. ওটাকে বৃত্তি বলা হয় yoga psychology তে. And the content of the vritti, which is usually the thought, that is called pratyay. এখন আমি এই বটলকে দেখলাম, here my pratyay will be this, the form of this bottle, and just the perception of this created a modification in my mind, which is called vritti. Now if these two, vritti and pratyay, are very stable, the same kind and orderly, then that generates the sajatiya ekagra vritti pravaha, which means the same kind of modifications with the same content going on in an orderly manner. Then the mind becomes very stable, calm, focused, stable. That brings a lot of joy. And if the content is bhakti, if the content is Ishvara himself, God himself, that generates tremendous joy in the human mind. So this is the signs of understanding how a very stable mind produces more and more joy. Because only a stable mind can reflect consciousness best. An unstable mind, an erratic mind cannot reflect consciousness. So it will not bring you joy. That is why sensory experiences give a minimal joy. And bhakti, intellectual absorption, all this give greater joy. Essentially, you're generating flow. যেটাকে modern psychology তে flow বলা হয়, which means there is deep level engagement. If you do mathematics at a very deep level, at the time of doing mathematics, you may not feel anything, but after the episode, you feel a great sense of fulfillment and liberation within. You were engaged for a number of hours and it felt like a few minutes. Engagement produces a great amount of joy, deep level engagement into anything. Flow naturally eshe geche. Flow got produced naturally. So also effective experiences, the experience of deep love, bhakti, generates this kind of a flow naturally. So the experience is all fulfilling. Once this kind of an experience is had, you will understand there are higher and higher rungs of this ladder available to me. Why should I restrict myself to the lowest rung of the ladder? So this is the ladder of human evolution, that there are higher and higher experiences of joy available to the human experience. Once we understand this, even if it is only an intellectual understanding, it is not intellectual, it is experience based. But once you get an experience of it and an understanding of that experience, you are able to see there's a whole science of happiness. যেটাকে বুঝতে পারলে, we will not keep chasing the wrong objects. We will not invest time in making ourselves happy only with sensory objects around us. In fact, if you analyze the sensory level of experience, any object which is giving you happiness on the external front, it is actually only giving you comfort and a certain amount of security, which you are calling happiness. You are mistaking comfort and security for happiness. Please see if this is true or not. Nijer life egulo apply korte hoy. We have not studied happiness properly. That is why we are chasing the wrong objects. So ঠাকুর সেজন্য সিম্পল দেখুন একটা সেন্টেন্সে ক্লিয়ার করে দিচ্ছেন, 3 রকমের আনন্দ আছে, বিষয়ানন্দ, ভজনানন্দ, তারপরে ব্রহ্মানন্দ. Now all three are available to the human experience. I will proceed along this ladder only if I am convinced of this, the lower rung. It doesn't simply befit us to remain at that level. It's okay for animals to be at that level, but we have higher and higher levels of joy available to us, different higher degrees of joy available to us. So eta climb korai the maturity of spiritual life. This is in our own experience. Please see this. Joto jivane bhakti ashe, the more fulfilling your life becomes. A life without bhakti, a life without deep level intellectual engagement, is really a life not worth living. No meaning in that kind of life. Once we understand this, we will understand how profound is every sentence of Thakur. Engagement, deep level engagement, age vritti and pratyay orderliness. This produces a higher level of happiness. And yogically, if you want to understand it, I can give you 1 or 2 more ideas here. Happiness is an exponential function of your awareness. The more your awareness is developed, cultured, augmented, the more you will be happy. It is not directly proportional to accumulation of objects. which means what? Deep within myself. If I am only half alert, quarterly alive, and that's why I require a number of objects to keep me entertained. But if deep within I'm fully alert and alive, I have awakened within, I don't require any object to keep me happy. If awareness, pure awareness is not cultured within, yoga mane basically culturing awareness, augmenting your level of awareness. If this is done yogically in this system, it's a do-it-yourself job. If we can do it, আমরা এটা বুঝতে পারবো, happiness is really an exponential function of awareness. The greater the awareness, the greater will be your happiness. The lesser the awareness, the more all sorts of thoughts crowd into your mind. Negativity is find place, worry is find place. So awareness এর quantity and quality বাড়ানো দরকার মনের মধ্যে. Now how do you do it? That is why sadhana. Sadhana chhada eta hoy na. Please see this. If you want to scientifically proceed on the spiritual path, because we are all now totally conditioned in scientific thinking, most of us. So we prefer to understand like this in the scientific paradigm. If you have to proceed analytically, properly, it must be an experience within yourself. Only sadhana brings this high level subtle experience. Bhakti ro definition holo, it is a very sukshma vritti, bhava vritti, and it happens in your system. So unless it is produced in your system through a pure mind, through the power of sadhana, jetake yog ball bola hoy, if you don't have the experience, you will not understand this ladder. It is entirely experience based. Spirituality, Swamiji bolte na, religion is entirely practical. It is based on your own experience. The thing is, we have to elevate our life so as to make these experiences possible for us on an everyday basis. Shei janne to sadhana darkar. That is why dikha darkar, so that the feel of purity comes into our heart. The feel of these higher experiences of pure bhakti comes into our heart. Once you have this, you won't have to be told, otate kichu nei, etar jonnei human birth ache. You won't have to be told. It is part and parcel of your thinking. It becomes part and parcel of your life. So this is the scientific understanding of happiness. Let us move one step further. How does Vedanta analyze happiness? Etokhon ami yoger kotha bollam apnake. This is how the yogi will see happiness. How will the Vedantin see happiness? According to Vedanta, happiness belongs only to the Atman, not to your mind, nor to the objects outside. It belongs only to the Atman. To the extent your mind is able to reflect that Anand, that joy, to that extent you will be happy. So, sir, mon niye kotha. If the mind is sattvic, pure, able to reflect the inner, already inherent happiness, which is an intrinsic part of your being, you will always be happy. If the mind is not able to do that, you will only be dependent upon objects to keep you somehow entertained. So you keep accumulating objects on the outside, which means what? Certain level of training of mind is required in order to understand the intrinsic nature of happiness. You see, suppose, let me just give you an example. Let us take example of Puran Poli, because we are in Mumbai. Now, somebody gets you one Puran Poli and you have it. Okay, it generated a certain level of happiness. Then second Puran Poli, you have it. Oh, after that, enough. Now, how Vedanta will analyze this experience? It will tell you, as soon as the Puran Poli came in front of you, your expectation of having enjoyment out of it created an agitation in your mind, a very strong vritti in your mind. That was, any vritti, any expectation, any enjoyment in the mind is actually illumined by consciousness, the Atman behind the mind, isn't it? Now, that vritti was illumined by consciousness. You had that Puran Poli. So the desire, the agitation was assuaged to a certain extent. That was also illumined by
Can't hear now. Jyoti, we can't hear.
You created an
Okay.
agitation.
We can hear now.
And you assuaged an agitation. And the peace you got from it, you superimposed on the object outside. If you don't create the agitation at all, there will be nothing to assuage. There will be nothing to fulfill. And if you keep the mind very pure and clean, sattvic, the whole intrinsic happiness of the Atman will get reflected in the mind. So you have happiness without the object. Once more, I will help you analyze the situation. Please observe this carefully. Any object of enjoyment, say a rasgulla comes in front of you or a puran poli comes in front of you, the expectation to enjoy, get enjoyment out of that creates the agitated vritti in your mind, the desire to enjoy. Then consciousness is illuminating that vritti in your mind. Once you have that eatable, the mind is assuaged a bit, which means it calms down a bit. Again, consciousness is illuminating that vritti, and the mind is declaring, you see, that object gave you this calmness, this happiness, which is a wrong interpretation. The agitation and the assuaging of that agitation, both are the creation of the mind, and the wrong interpretation also is a creation of the mind. Happiness only belongs to consciousness. It is a property only of the Atman, reflected in the mind and wrongly superimposed on the object. This is the Vedantic understanding of happiness. If you keep the mind very pure and clear and don't create unnecessary agitations there, that happiness will descend into your mind even without the object. এখন এটা আপনারাই নিজে দেখুন এটা সম্ভব কিনা. Try it in your meditation and see a very calm, peaceful, balanced, absolutely pure, clear state of mind will bring happiness by itself. আর কোনো জিনিসের দরকারই নেই. We have all felt this, isn't it? When you feel bhakti for Thakur, when you feel a deep sense of calmness in your own system, you know you are happy without any object. But always this misunderstanding happens because of the nature of mind. Mind is gripped in Maya. Etake bole Vishaya Vishayi Adhyas, which means the nature of the Vishayi and Vishaya has been confused. You have superimposed the joy born of self and reflected of the mind on the object. And you are declaring the object is the cause for my happiness. That is why you will keep chasing the object until you are able to understand at least this much, that no, happiness is a state of my mind. So this is the first step to coming out of this adhyas. To understand happiness is not inherent in the object. It is a state of my mind. And the second step is to understand it is not even a state of my mind. It is a property of myself, of the Atman within me, reflected in my mind and superimposed on the object. So a puro circle ta nijekai katte hobe. Eta bujhe nite hobe how it is working, how my mind is working. The mind is up to all tricks because it is under the grip of Maya. It is adhyas is part of your mental function. That is why there's a kind of haziness in understanding happiness. But if you observe it clearly in a state of mind which is close to samadhi, you will see this very clearly, that how I am fooling myself. The happiness inherent to me, which is part of my being, I invested that in the mind, into the mind. And the mind is by nature chanchal. It will throw it on an object. It will superimpose it on an object and give all credit to all kinds of objects around you. So the aim of your life becomes collecting this, collecting that, hoarding this, hoarding so many things, investing in relationships, investing in so many people, so that I require people to keep me happy. I require the mobile phone to keep me calm. Unless messages are constantly coming, well, it means nobody loves me. Nobody wants me. All these silly conclusions and investiture of your psychic energy into wrong thoughts happens because of our inability to understand the signs of happiness. এটা আপনি নিচে থেকে দেখুন how clear and absolute this knowledge is. It is happening in your own system. If you calm the mind, I told you, till the level of going into samadhi, to that extent, if you calm the mind, this will become a very clear thing. You are mistaking something for happiness, and you are giving the credit to the wrong objects. এটার সম্বন্ধে একটা খুব সুন্দর গল্প আছে যেটা আপনাকে বলবো. There is a very beautiful illustration of this phenomenon in the Buddha's life. This happened when Gautam Buddha, after his enlightenment, he was moving around in those forests full of bliss, full of joy, and trying to analyze the human enigma, the human situation, why there is so much suffering. Why are we alienated from these fundamental truths about our own life? When he was thinking of this, he suddenly saw there a colony of lepers. Lepers, leprosy-ridden patients. In those days, there were no multi-speciality hospitals, so there were no such medical relief. And so lepers were actually quarantined. They were sent into the forest where they created a colony, and they would live there. Food would be placed at the edge of the forest every day, and the lepers would take that food and they would live in that colony in the forest. So suddenly the Buddha came upon a colony of lepers. And you know what they were doing? First of all, leprosy, what does it do? It causes a lot of itching in the hands, in the feet, a lot of itching. And itching, it creates sores. Still the itching does not stop. So further itching, it creates wounds. And khoye jai puro hath. Apnara hoyto dekhechen. So it's a very pathetic situation. Still it keeps itching, and the wounds, there will be pus and blood and everything oozing out of it, but the itching does not stop. It is such a painful situation. To overcome that pain, these lepers used to light a bonfire morning and evening and burn their wounds in that bonfire to get rid of this pain. And they would call this experience happiness, relief. Watching this, the Buddha said, he was stunned at what they were calling happiness. And he said, the leprosy-ridden patient is the desire-ridden mind. It will itch unstoppably because the desire is there, the agitation has been created. You itch and itch, you create a sore. Further you itch and itch, you create a wound. Then to assuage that wound, the pain born of that wound, you will hold that wound on fire. You will burn the wound of your mind on the fire of sense pleasure. The result will be more wounds, but you will call that happiness. See how he is analyzing the human situation. Why is it that our mind does not understand these simple facts of life? A very sattvic state of mind naturally brings happiness. But no, we will create an agitation, we will create a sore and a wound, burn it on the fire of sense pleasure, and then we want to call that happiness. Why do we do this? This is simply because the mind lacks training and spiritual practice. Shejane bhajanananda is so important. Getting a taste of higher joys in life. Sadhana, that is why it is so important. Once you get a taste for bhakti, ঠাকুর এটা কত ভাবে বলেছেন, ভক্তি সার বলেছেন, জীবনের সার হলো ভক্তি. Once you get a taste for these higher emotions, you get a taste for higher awareness, you will not invest your energy in burning wounds. You will not invest your energies in chasing objects. You will not make the wrong equations. So this basic understanding must come into our life. আমরা ঠাকুর মার জীবনী পড়ি, we must be able to draw from that life, that these lives are so independent of external circumstance, so independent of external objects. Please observe and see. ঠাকুরের জীবনী আপনি দেখুন. Once, this Dayanand Saraswati came and saw Thakur's samadhi. Thakur samadhite boshe achen. And seeing the look on his face and the tears rolling down his cheeks, Dayanand Saraswati said, these Mahapurush, these people have actually tasted the butter. Ar amra ghol khachi. We are drinking the buttermilk. the very look on Thakur's face would change. He would radiate light, and he would radiate such bliss that the people around him, tar bhave bhavit hoye jetora. I don't know how to translate this into English. They would catch that bhav perfectly. You know, Thakur jakon bhav samadhite, he would dance in the room. All the people would get into that mood. Like actually a whole multitude of bad people, it would appear like that. To a person did not know bhav samadhi, it would appear like that. Like, what is this mob up to? They would all be dancing in ecstasy. So it কি করে সম্ভব, the luminosity of his mind, ability to render this level of joy to other minds. This is a possibility. It সম্ভব, such a level of joy that it simply overflows and pours into other minds. All great souls are able to manifest this level of joy. একদিন কেউ ঠাকুরকে জিজ্ঞাসা করেছে, samadhi ki jinish, what do you exactly feel in samadhi? And Thakur said, will you understand if I say, if a fish is released, which was restricted to a pot, is released into the waters of the Ganges, Ganga jale jodi chhede dewa hoy, that splashing joy of that fish, something like that, my mind feels that liberation in samadhi. That's why he could not contain himself. See, the nature of happiness, it absorbs and consumes you. Isn't it? The nature of the highest joy. That which does not absorb you cannot give you joy. Knowing this, you must distance yourself from merely sensory level happiness. It simply doesn't befit us, especially when we have come under the wing of Thakur Ma Swamiji. Please see this. There are such high flights of joy and bliss available to us. So something, a taste for that, we must be able to get into this life. Get it in this life. That is the whole purpose. Thakurer Jivane aro koto kichu ache. We can discuss it for a long time, but since you have asked for the signs of happiness, let me give you one or two more points here. See, happiness readily comes into a sattvic mind. We discussed this. Amader jivane amra ki kore ei bhavgulo anbo. A sattvic mind is required in order to produce joy. What is a rajasic and tamasic mind? Which is very dense. All sorts of erratic thoughts, all sorts of emotions. You know, your pranic energy, psychic energy is invested in your emotions. They are high energy thoughts, your emotions, with a lot of feeling. So they consume a lot of energy. Now, if our emotions are not clean and pure, not devoted to high ideals, then they will simply remove a lot of your psychic energy. They are like whirlpools in your subconscious. It draws away a lot of energy. So this creates a feeling of frustration, depression, a feeling of not liking, not wanting to be in that particular mind. Anekera eta bole na baba, I just want to get out of this mind. This is the reason for this, is because the mind has not lifted itself. That's why the human birth is meant to lift your psychic energies to a particular level. It are basic to understanding human experience, the reaches of human experience. If you can do this consciously, Shaijani, a little discipline in personal life, sadhana, practice, this will naturally lift psychic energy to a particular level. Once the psychic energy remains in the heart and the mind becomes sattvic and clear, happiness will flood into that mind. Ar kichu darkari nahi. You don't require objects to keep you happy. Otherwise, no amount of collection of objects can keep you happy. Please see this. This is how you should understand the picture of the world also. Some of the greatest number of suicides are taking place in very affluent countries, within very affluent families. Sab kichu ache kintu bhalo lagche na. Why? The mind is cluttered with unnecessary things, with objects. The total understanding of human personality, how it functions, human happiness is wrong. So Yoga Vedanta have an enormous contribution to make in understanding our own psyche, in understanding the different levels of happiness available to us, and in understanding the fulfillment that human life can bring if it is raised to a particular level. Amadir culture, all this has naturally come to us through the lives of these great saints. আপনি ঠাকুরের জীবনী দেখুন, মার জীবনী দেখুন, মার জীবনে এত simple. Mother's life is so simple. See her life in Nahabat. Let us analyze a bit. Somebody once visited us, in Shardamat, and they were actually no idea of the mental state of mother. So they were telling how hard she worked, all the day slogging, and Thakur was in ecstasy, but mother was slogging all the day. But you know what mother's own expression was? Ma ki bolechen oi avasthay? Jano, a picture of bliss is placed in my heart. This was her experience of that time. If you actually see mother's life at that time, when she was living in Nahabat, it was one of bliss, sheer bliss, because bliss does not lie in objects. She lived a life, it apparently appeared to be a life of complete service, but within deep satisfaction, the greatest fulfillment she experienced. She was in Samadhi often. When early morning she would get up at 3 o'clock and sit on the roof of the Nahabat and meditate there. Many times she went into the state of Samadhi. Once somebody dropped a brass plate in front of her, and the sound pierced into mother's heart because she was in such a concentrated state, and she cried out. That shows where the mind was. And mother used to say, that was a period when my heart was full of bliss. So see for yourself where bliss lies, where happiness lies, and where are we thinking it lies. Their lives are the living demonstration of what Vedas and Vedanta are trying to teach us. If you want to understand the signs of happiness, if you want a practical demonstration of it, read Thakur's life and the books connected, like Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. Constantly you see there all laugh. Constantly you see so much of joy there. A joy not based on objects. So since we have analyzed this level of joy, that joy is possible to this level, I will just conclude this talk. We will have a question answer session. Shall we have it? So I will conclude the talk in a few minutes with just one more understanding here. Thakur ekta udaharan dichen. He gives a very beautiful example, a story he gives us. You know the story, but we will analyze the story a bit. You know the story of Hari the lion. There was a small lion cub which grew up in the midst of sheep. Apnara jane no story. Actually, what very briefly I will go into the story. What happened was the lioness, she died while giving birth to the cub, and she was attacking a flock of sheep when this cub was born. And so the lion cub grew up in the midst of sheep. The mother had died, and it thought it was a sheep. It just thought it was a sheep. It was a lion cub. We also think we are amra choto khato people. What can we do? Sadhan bhajan to khub uchu jinish. What can we do? If you think you are a sheep, you will start behaving like a sheep. So this lion cub started bleating and eating grass for a lion. But it started doing that because it thought it was a sheep. And then it moved around with the sheep and bleating loudly like a sheep. So like this, it was growing up slowly. One day, a lion from the forest came there, and he saw that there is something yellow moving about with the sheep. From a distance it saw, and then it came closer and saw it is another lion cub, and moving with the sheep and bleating like a sheep and eating grass. And he said, what a disgrace to my family, cat family. This fellow is behaving like a sheep. How can this be possible? And so he decided to rescue the lion cub. And so he took his chance and pulled him away from the flock of sheep and dragged him into the forest to a lake and showed him his face there and said, look, your face resembles mine. How do you think you are a sheep? Why do you move with sheep and bleat and eat grass? And the lion cub now was very disoriented. He said, no, I'm a sheep. I'm used to thinking I'm a sheep. I have become a sheep because I think I am a sheep. And then he showed him his reflection and said, look at your face. And it resembles mine. তো এই দুটো জিনিস খুবই ইম্পর্টেন্ট আমাদের লাইফে। দেখুন, doubting that you are a sheep is very important. Doubting that I can't, am I a sheep or not? এটাকে বলে identity crisis. In our life, you can call it identity crisis. Doubting our real nature. Can I be this body and mind? See, perfectly objectively, you can study the body. That's what medical science is about. Objectively, you can study the mind. That is what psychology, psychiatry is about. If you can objectively study something, can you be that thing? It means there's a subject studying something as an object. You, the awareness, are the subject always. You are studying, you are seeing the body and mind objectively. So you were never the body and mind, but you thought you are body and mind alone. Like the lion cub thought he was the sheep. So this identity crisis means genuinely thinking, I cannot be merely this. Eta amar swarup noy. Eta amar porichoy noy. This is not my real nature. I am functioning through this, but I am not merely this. This is the first step to transformation. This identity crisis, if it comes, if the lion cub feels maybe he is right, I should explore and see, then what will the guru do? The lion guru, he will show you the reflection. Swaswaruper parichay, otake chena. Swaruper parichay. Understanding who I truly am. There are various ways of doing this. If you want these higher levels of happiness, you must understand the source of happiness. Where is it coming from? Why is Vedanta telling me the source is right within you? It is you yourself. Bliss is a property of the Atman. More than a property, it is the Atman. Not that the Atman is blissful. Atman is bliss. It is of the nature of bliss. So this reflected in your mind is giving you a beautiful experience of happiness. But the original stuff in itself, how much happiness it should give. So understanding this, Swaswarupe Parichay Pava Mane, understanding I am the Atman functioning through this body-mind complex. Then I will not give in to objects to get happiness. You see, basically this is our problem. Because I think I'm only this body, then the only way I can get happiness is through the senses. If I think I'm only the mind, I have only intellectual happiness available because I'm the mind. If I know I'm the Atman, I will have higher and higher levels of happiness available to my experience because that is the inherent nature of the Atman. So once you understand this, Tarpar ki kurchen guru, what did the lion guru do to the cub? He showed him his face and then from somewhere he bought a piece of meat. Etao Thakur bolchen and buje dilen or mukhe. He put it into his mouth and said, taste blood, taste this. You are a lion, you are not a sheep. Oh, I couldn't rock their taste pillow. He got the taste of this higher bliss and he roared like a lion. He understood he is not a sheep. It's a mistake. He thought wrongly. Amrao shetai korchi. We are constantly identifying with what we are not. Although it is in our own experience to see, I, the awareness, am always separate from body and mind. You see, you pass through so many experiences of life. You were that young infant, you were the toddler, you were the young person, then you got older, now you are getting on in years. The same I has passed through all this. How can you be merely body and mind? You are aware of body and mind. Body and mind is not aware of you. Isn't it? It's in your own experience. So how can you be merely body and mind? Your very memory is proof that you are not merely body and mind. If you remember your past and if you can anticipate your future, you are there continuously. There is an unchanging element in us, which is called the Atman, of the nature of pure consciousness, whose very nature is existence, awareness, and bliss. Satchidananda. That is your real nature. If you connect with that, You will get bliss by yourself, blissful by yourself. You will get into ecstasy by yourself. Thakur Jivane apni dekhun, no factor was required to cause him ecstasy. He could use Mother Kali's image as a stimulus, but by himself, he got into that state. Taina, Thakur hardly needed an excuse to get into samadhi. Sarakhan oi avasthaye thakten Thakur. Ekbar, somebody closed an umbrella in Thakur's presence. He went into samadhi. Why? You know why? Because it reminded him of the sudden gathering of the powers of the mind. Yoger avasthaye etai to hai. Joger avasthaye. Suddenly the mind is gathered within, into the self. So that reminded him and he went into samadhi. One day somebody was standing in the pose of Krishna. Oi pose keu dadiye chilo. Seeing it, tar uddipan hoye gelo, he went into samadhi. When he saw immoral women, he would go into samadhi. Ma tumi ekhane ei veshe. The least things could put him into that state. Why? The mind has become so sensitive. It has turned within completely. So you see, Bhav Samadhi, when you see all these things in the life of these great people, we can understand where joy inherently lies. Once we get this clear picture, we should not invest our energies in the wrong places. The science of happiness teaches us this. Get a taste for spiritual practice. Just as that lion guru gave the lion cub meat, আপনাদের গুরু আপনাকে একটা ধন দিয়েছেন আপনাদের. What is it? It is your mantra. It has been given. It is actually a gem. It cannot be compared with anything. Just doing sadhana with that gem will get you these levels of happiness. It's a treasure in your hands. If you are able to culture awareness using this, you will find all this to be perfectly true. You are such close devotees of the order, so I can tell you that this is a possibility in your life. Sadhana darkar. Not that Atma Jnana Jane sadhana darkar, because Atman is always there. My mind is not opening to that truth. My mind is wrongly conditioned. My mind has not understood these concepts clearly by itself. Shei Jane sadhana darkar. When my mind opens to the truth, you will see truth is always there. It always was, always is, and always will be. Shei Jane word ki use kara hai realization. It is not getting something new. It is just knowing what is already there. My mind was so long closed. Now my mind through sadhana opened up. Mon niye katha. If you generate a sattvic state of mind, an elevated state of pranic energy, if you become fully alive within yourself, happiness will descend upon you simply. It is always there. It doesn't descend anywhere. Your mind has opened to the truth of your being. So this is the fulfillment of human life. This is what yoga is pointing towards. This is what Vedanta is pointing towards. And the lives of all these great people are directly showing us this. এখন আমরা কতটা করব সেটা দেখতে হবে. How much we utilize our energies to go into this consciously, deliberately, willfully. This is the whole point. So I will stop the talk here. We will take up question answers on this. Emptying the mind is an important technique to uncover consciousness. Because how yoga understands mind is nothing but thoughts on consciousness, floating on consciousness. If you remove thoughts, you have consciousness left over. So full of happiness you will be. Very good. He's made a very important observation actually. See, let me give you a little more information on this. Today, the current theory of positive psychology is what is called Parma. They have come to an understanding in which they say happiness depends upon 5 factors. What are the 5 factors according to them? The 5 factors are Parma means P stands for pleasure, E stands for engagement, R stands for relationships, M stands for meaning, A stands for achievement. If these 5 things are there in the human life, the person will be happy. This is their understanding. Now, you just observe these factors and see everything requires an object, isn't it? Pleasure requires an object, engagement requires something, some object, relationships are to do with somebody
Sorry.
outside of you. So all of these, achievement is object based. All of these except meaning factor. Meaning also usually they mean you do something meaningful and then you get happiness. So all of these are object based. Basically, yoga and Vedanta is telling you object is not required to give you happiness. Just now we saw the signs of yoga and Vedanta. What are they trying to tell you? If you are investing your happiness in an object, today the object is there, you remained happy, or whatever you thought was, your comfort and security you're calling happiness. But tomorrow the object will move, and so your happiness also will move. All object-based happiness is like that. How long can you keep objects? They won't stay. The nature of life is change and contradiction. So your happiness also will pass through different phases. So happiness is impossible. That is what Yoga Vedanta will say in sensory objects, because they will keep changing. But there is a level of happiness which does not change and which is independent of the object. যেটা আমরা এখনই discuss করলাম. If you can go into it by yourself, that is why spiritual practice. You see, spiritual practice is not just for bhaktas or aspiring yogis. It is for everyone. It is elevating human life, unfolding the entirety of human potential. আমি এই classes গুলো সব IIT তে দিচ্ছি, and they are so interested in all of this because it is to do with the flowering of human life. The more you uncover awareness, the more you augment human evolution. The more you uncover life, human life, the better you will experience life. আপনার ভিতরে এই change হয়. You see, awareness manifests itself as happiness in your system. If the awareness is clogged up in negativities, in all sorts of emotions, there will be no experience of pure awareness in the mind. Even mental awareness cannot be clear enough to understand anything. So there is no happiness. Then you only keep multiplying objects around you to keep you somehow calm, which won't work. It doesn't work. Today, many young people have got reduced to this level, isn't it? Absolutely dependent on the mobile phone to keep me balanced. This is slavery. Where is this happiness? They go into, actually they commit, not commit suicide, they go into very deep levels of depression if they lose mobile phone. How dependent we have become, you see. Yes.
सुधीर, by profession I am artist. मैं मेरे प्रोफेशन में बहुत बार ये हैप्पीनेस और अनहैप्पीनेस का ऊपर नीचे ग्राफ हमेशा पाता हूँ.
Yes.
तो एक्चुअली जैसे गुरु महाराज जी का पेंटिंग बनाना,
Yeah.
शुरू करते वक्त कि इतना प्रेशर रहता है कि ये ठीक होगा या नहीं.
Yes.
काम शुरू करते हैं, थोड़ा सा हैप्पीनेस शुरू होता है, लेकिन जब तक वो एक्सपेक्टेशन के लेवल पे वो क्वालिटी बार में नहीं आता है, तब तक अनहैप्पीनेस इतना जोर से फॉलो करता रहता है. सो ये एक बार नहीं, मैं लास्ट 30 ईयर से ये प्रैक्टिस कर रहा हूँ, फिर भी अभी भी उसमें हमेशा यही चेस्ट चल रहा है, हैप्पीनेस अनहैप्पीनेस. सो इसमें समावस्था में कैसा मतलब आगे कंटिन्यू किया जा सकता है?
It's a good question. See, I will tell you one basic law of happiness. If you want to get happiness out of any activity, say cooking or art or science or mathematics, anything, you must forget happiness and get absorbed in the work at hand. If you get absorbed, you create the ekagra vritti pravaha, which I spoke of, and that gives you happiness. At the end of the activity, you will be flooded with joy. But during the activity, if you keep thinking, is this giving me happiness? It won't give you happiness. It is just high level engagement. You must only think of doing the job perfectly. Forget about happiness. If you only concentrate on doing the job perfectly, you will see at the end of the job, You are simply flooded with peace and happiness because you have perfected the job. This is a law. You generate sajatiya ekaga vritti pravaha during work. The result is supreme happiness. But if you start off aiming at happiness, you won't get it. Absorption is the key to happiness. Get absorbed in the work at hand, whatever it is. Even cooking can put you into samadhi if it is done in the right spirit. Everything is a yoga because the actual fact is happiness is right within you. The mind is obstructing it. Clear up the mind through the activity or through the thinking or through whatever the art, and the happiness will unfold from within. Hannah, have you observed this phenomenon? Even in meditation, many times you can feel it. Maybe you thought you sat for 10 minutes, but actually you sat for 1 hour. Why? You were absorbed. This is a possibility. Art does this very often. You are painting something or sculpturing something. You did it for 4 hours, but it felt like a few minutes because you were absorbed. There is a story on this which I can tell you. A very beautiful story. Once one person went to a Zen master. He had heard a lot that he's a man of realization and he has achieved it through Zen. So he went to him, and that Zen master had also heard he's a great professor who knows everything. So the Zen master welcomed him when he went and said, first, before we start our conversation, let's have tea. And he brought the 2 cups and started pouring tea. He didn't stop. He poured, and then the cup overflowed, and then the dish overflowed, and the table also was going to overflow. And then the professor said, please stop. This is overflowing already. How can you pour anything more? And then the Zen master said, this is the condition of your mind. How can I pour Zen into you? You must empty the cup to get the realization of Zen. Our mind is super cluttered. Isn't this true? So many unnecessary things, a lot of energy blocked in all sorts of emotions. That is why it is difficult to meditate. If you learn to empty mind periodically, it is possible. Then you will see it is naturally going to bring out the inherent awareness. যেটাকে আমরা awareness বলি, first it comes as mental awareness. You are mentally more and more aware. So you feel more and more alive, without thoughts, without objects. This can be further cultured and concentrated. It will lead to the state of Atmajnan. So our states of mind decide our perceptions. If you are able to stop thought, or at least control thought to a great extent, your very perception of the world will change. It is possible to do this through practice. Periodically learn to at least control thought if you can't stop it. For most people, they are not thinking. Thinking is happening. Hannah, thinking is going on. That is why we say, how do I stop thought? But you can. Every day, a little practice of meditation and yoga is required to practice. And there are 2 things Gita says, Bhagavad Gita. What's the second thing? Abhyasena tu kaunteya vairagyena cha grihete. Vairagya is, we all have vairagya inherent, because there are some things you don't want to experience. That is vairagya. Anything that degrades you, that puts your mind in a restless state, you don't want to experience. So make it clear to your mind, my life is meant for the highest goals of life, and I will not invest it in stupid things. Then it will come to a standstill. How much of our time, as devotees also, how much of our time do we spend in thinking about Thakur? If we are over engaged in other things, you are constantly creating vrittis, and you repeat those vrittis, they become sanskars. So we are creating our own sanskars. Shejane tar naam guna chintan korte hobe. As a practice, everyday basis. And then Thakur says, prarthana. Ask for what you want. Like a child, as a child demands from his mother, we can ask him like that. It's a very powerful technique to develop all this. And he says sadhu sang, which means satsang. Without having a positive atmosphere, it is very difficult to dive into sadhana. That is why it is important to, you see, there are so many stories on this. It is important to keep the company of like-minded people and devotees. Because if you have an ambience, you add up, the total atmosphere adds up and you get the benefit of it. Shejane, ashrame java, good association and bhajan, kirtan, eguro sab, everything is important. Puja, part, discussing about Thakur. আমি চৈতন্য দেবের লাইফ পড়ছিলাম, ওটা কত সুন্দর আছে। when they would discuss Bhagavad, the disciples of Chaitanya, ওই ভাগবতের প্যাপিরাস এখনো আছে। they would weep so much that the ink has spread, smudged on that papyrus sheet. This way they would discuss the glories of Krishna. So do we think about our Lord like that? With so much of emotion, with so much concern on an everyday basis? At least Kathamrit Roj Pada Darkar. Every day you must read Kathamrit. That itself will do everything. So these are the simple things you can follow at home. Taina, it's so simple. You must read Kathamrit with family. When you read it with family, a bond is created. After 25 years, your children will be remembering, ha, eta amra kortam ma babar sange. And observance of anything, like many homes I have seen a small arti or something, if you do for 2-3 minutes, do it along with others of the family. Let them get used to that ambience. Padashuna, you can't force children to do that, but at least teach them to bow down to greatness, so that they will themselves gradually know what is opposite to that is not worth bowing down to. Egulo choto choto jinish, but it creates a huge impact in homes. And in your own personal life, never leave sadhana. Even after realization, you should not leave sadhana. It should be, sadhana means I am prioritizing spirituality in my life. Taina? Is there anything else worth having? Can anybody keep you happy 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, other than God? Nothing else matters actually. So prioritizing this is very important. Bhakta mane ei, Thakur bolechen, bhakta mane jar mon ishwarete ache, tini bhakta. Let us stop here. Anything else? Any more questions?
Let me get to the right spot to get our, can you guys hear me?
Yes, beautiful.
Oh,
Amazing.
good.
So nice, Jyoti. Thank you so much.
So does anybody have questions,
I
comments?
have so many questions.
Come on in, come on up, Alexandra, so that, because some of these people like Uma and Haima and other people may have some good answers too.
Good morning. So these are just questions about like words and not philosophical questions. So the thing at the end, she said, read what every day?
The Katamrit.
Okay.
Is Ramakrishna's Gospels.
Got it. And
We have it in the bookstore.
It's right there.
oh, I love it.
There's some for sale in the bookstore as well.
So the kata, how do you spell that?
Param house, higher quality of soul. Param.
Got it.
Katamrit, is that what the word?
Yes.
Katamr.
K-T-H-A. K-T-H-A. Katha Mrit. M-R-I-T, I guess.
It's a combination of two words.
Kathamrit.
And then
Katha means story. Amrit means it's a nectar.
ah,
Nectar. Sri Ramakrishna's Kathamrit is a nectar. That is Amrit.
lovely.
So Katha is
Yeah.
story. Katha Amrit.
And then she said there's 3 levels of happiness.
Mhm.
And the Vishananda Bhakti was the second one.
Bhajanananda, which is bhakti.
And then what was the third one?
Third one is Brahmananda, bliss. That's the consciousness, Atman.
Okay.
To reach there, we all travel through this, sense pleasures. Of course, we all want to eat rasagolla, gulab jam, and temporary pleasures. That's what she was explaining. These are all temporary pleasures. When you can eat, you are happy. When you can't eat, you're unhappy. Things. And then next level is spiritual level is bhajanananda. She wants us to focus on your chosen ideal or Ramakrishna and continue to pray and get the focus and prayer. I'm sure Umaji can explain a lot more about it. And then slowly we will unfold all the thoughts and then we will reach the consciousness, higher bliss. That is the Brahmananda.
So the Brahmananda is
It's the
pathway to
our
the
Atman, our consciousness. That's way beyond the thoughts, mind, intellect, thoughts, and then the basic that we're all born with,
Thank
which
you.
is the consciousness.
Thank you. And then, so Maya in Vedanta is kind of analogous to samsara in Buddhism. Does anybody know?
Umaji,
Say samsara.
any others can explain better? Maya is an illusion. We are under illusion all the time.
We are all living in the world of Maya.
Yes.
Pictures,
Oh,
all kinds of,
Maya is the cause of samsara.
yes.
Of course. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Right. Okay.
Everything.
Okay. Thank you so much for elucidating.
You're
me.
welcome.
I understand so much better now. Thank you.
Ah,
It's wonderful lecture. Wonderful lecture. I mean, every human being needs this.
I can go on listening to her.
I know she has so many on YouTube. So many on YouTube. She's amazing.
So just a note for everyone, I have emailed her and asked her to come to our center.
Oh, I hope so. That would be wonderful.
She said that next year.
Oh,
And Pravrajika had told me that she usually does one coast one year and the other coast the next
year. Okay.
This year she is West Coast. She is, for those of you who don't know, she is speaking at a retreat in California in June.
Yes, I saw that advertisement. Something, yeah, 4 days or 3 days.
It's been on our newsletter lately.
Yeah.
Towards the bottom. And so that says to me that she's doing the West Coast this year.
Yeah.
And that she said to me she would definitely try to get here next year. Definitely. I don't remember her exact words, but anyway. So I want to thank Brian. Brian's the one that introduced me to her and requested that we invite her to come. So I did.
Wonderful.
Wonderful. Do you know which city in California she's coming to?
I do know, but not right now. If you look on the newsletter, Uma, the last newsletter, and scroll down, it's called the Imaloa Institute, I think. And Hari Namananda has coordinated this spiritual retreat. I think it's called Eyes Wide Open or something like that.
Something like that, yes. It's on the website, Vedanta Center of Atlanta.
It's in Monterey, California, in a resort called Asilomar.
Oh, okay. That's it. I got that wrong, Imaloa. Sorry.
That's okay, but remember everything.
Does anybody else have comments or questions?
Yes, can I say something?
Well, I don't know, maybe.
Unstoppable.
If you put on your video so we can see your sweet face, then you can.
All right, all right. I don't want to be seen, I want to be heard.
We want it all.
We want both.
Can you see me now? No, not yet. Okay, yeah. I know. Can you see me now?
Oh yeah, I
Yes.
can see you now. Thank you.
See, there are few words I wanted to comment on. Kathamrutam.
Yes.
Amruta is a nectar, but the quality of Amruta, you never die after that much.
That's right. That's right.
It is not a transient quality.
Yes.
It is a continuous, perennial, non-dying quality. So if you hear something in a story and forget by next Monday, that is not called Kathamrutam. That is just listening, hearing, not even listening, hearing. So my point is that if she is going to come, for example, next year, then really Amrutam will be that between now and next year, we listen to her a little more frequently, try to assimilate that in our thought and action, and see what effect it has made on our personal life. When that is not there, then it's a very passive listening which comes and goes. Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Maj.
Yeah.
Thanks for the clarification. I'm glad
The
you
second
did
thing
that.
about Paramahansa, Hansa is a swan, and the Atma is thought to be a swan, which is a metaphor. It's not the real swan, but it's a metaphor of swan. That means Atma is like a swan, lily white, never stained, stays in water but never gets wet. That is a quality of swan, and therefore, metaphorically, swan has been called Atman. It stays in the world but doesn't want to be stained with it.
Like lotus.
Yes. But then when Atma becomes totally consolidated with Paramatma, then it becomes Paramahansa. So then even Atma looks like at a lower level. It has gone beyond that. And that was what was meant by Brahmananda. Ananda is a joy, but the joy can be fun, joy can be rejoice, joy can be ecstasy, and joy could be something beyond all of them. So Brahmananda is you are having so much of joy in the constant source of happiness that she was trying to say that you do not want any other Ananda. That's what I wanted to just elaborate on.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you so much.
Anyone else have any comments or discussion around topics we heard?
Almost speechless.
I have a comment. Sure.
Great.
Good morning, everybody. So I just want to say that I'm like the biggest fanboy of Mataji, and I think she is just excellent. I think one of the most important things that she speaks about, and she speaks about this in several of her other videos, is the importance of sadhana, and that without sadhana, everything is just theory, and it's not real until you actually are practicing. So it's one thing for us to just listen to all of her videos and say, oh, this is great, this is so lovely. But if you're not actually doing anything, if there's no sadhana, you're not really cultivating bhakti or any experience for yourself, any personal experience. Yeah. So it's like, it's nice to hear her say that you can get to these levels, but if you yourself aren't doing anything, it's all just theory. So, sadhana is everything,
I thought exactly you're saying what I would have said, that without yourself deeply going into it, just like that lamp, you will not feel who you are.
Yes.
So in order to know your real self, you have to first go into it, and then remember, she said, get absorbed, deep absorption in
Yeah.
anything you pursue, anything you try sadhana with deep absorption and continuity. Then
I can add to that, probably kind of piggyback on what everybody's saying, is continuous and ceaseless prayer. It is something you have to experience the effects of it.
Yeah.
And don't expect that things will start changing right away or something will happen. Don't do it. Just take the name of the divine in whichever form appeals to you and keep doing it all day, as much as you can at all times.
And this I'm saying to myself, we all know we have to, man or woman these days, you have to do your cooking. You can get tired of ordering food, but when you're cooking and doing dishes and all those domestic chores, we say, oh, I'm so tired. Oh, I wish I can get a break. Well, there is nothing wrong in it, but if we do these things with that absorption of mind in our Ishta, in whoever you believe in, believe me, that nature of work will change.
Exactly.
You will not be tired,
Absolutely. I agree 100%. Do it all the time. It will become it will become like a third nature automatically. If you practice, it's automatically there.
Because I'm guilty of that. I'm guilty of that. Oh, I have to do so much. Why do I have to do all this? But you can take it two ways. Either you got to do what you got to do, or that I do it in the name of God, or I derive joy in it. So that perspective changes.
Right.
I wanted to comment on Gaurav's question about prayer. To me, prayer is a question which needs to be answered. So that what we do is to pray and then we think it's a declarative period, I have done my job, it's over. But the next question is my prayer answered? The prayer is answered, for example, when you are doing your daily chores, you pray, at the end of the chores, you say, did I resent working? Your prayer is not answered. If you are resented, it's not answered. But when you say, no, I got the joy from this work, your prayer is answered.
Okay, next time you do dishes.
This is a very personal, very local, means our people only. Let me open up my personal.
Come up so they can. Yeah.
Okay, let me open up a personal question. May help me here because Umaji and all. Say, for example, I left my job for a couple of months, and that month I was able to concentrate. What some people told, when I meditate for 1 hour, I don't know how. I thought I was meditating for 10 minutes. How it went 1 hour? But I again rejoined my job, and I'm not able to do that because the job distraction isn't affecting me. So is that the way that one should not do any job or do less job? How to address this? We all, our people are here, just I'm asking a friendly question. Say how to control the, but nowadays when I'm trying to meditate, so many distractions. It is double the distraction.
But your mantra is there. If you have a mantra and then your chosen ideal, you just pull back. It's okay. You may have laundry list, you may have washer, you may have grocery list coming into your mind, but just keep on chanting your mantra. Pull back your thought to, oops, I need to focus on in your mind. Well, it's all right to come and go, all these laundry lists and then grocery lists and a lot of other things you need to do for grandchildren, children, but they come and go. But you just keep pulling your mantra and then just keep going, doing your meditation, your chosen ideal. Focus on your chosen ideal and the mantra, whatever mantra you are doing it. That's the only answer every Swamiji gave. And then also disciplining yourself. Practice, practice, practice. So many books we read always said, go self-realization, practice. Without practice, nothing is going to happen. Like the other gentleman said, just before you, the other gentleman was saying, yes, without practice, it's just theory.
Absolutely, absolutely right, Ramaji. But what I'm thinking is, what is again? Yeah, practice. But
that's early in the morning is the best
Yeah.
time when you get up in the morning, take your medicine, and then do what you have to do 5 minutes, and then sit in. I mean, that's the best time. And then night before you go to bed is the best time because you already discharged all your duties by that time. So those are good times, but you could do any other time. Airplane, train, bus. That's how my penny worth. Thank you. I just added.
Practice. We have to, instead of all this distraction, we have to continue to have practice. I think that is the best suggestion you get. Yeah.
And
Okay to have distractions.
I'd like to make a comment.
Yeah.
yes,
Just about everybody's mind wanders, and it's not a contest. Like I've had a problem where I would say, well, I bet that guy's mind is completely quiet and peaceful and mine's wandering, and so there's something wrong with me. Just about everybody's mind wanders.
Yes.
It's with different people. Some people's minds are more active than others. My mind, I will meditate regularly, but my mind wanders. And by wandering, I don't mean that I just have a thought. I mean, that I go off on a tangent and it's like I completely forget that I'm meditating. And then I think, oh, I'm supposed to be sitting here meditating. I spent the last 5 minutes thinking about laundry list or taxes or whatever, what I should have said to somebody. So the best teacher I had, he's encouraging me just to accept this, that I really can't control my mind all that much. In fact, trying too hard to control my mind just makes me tense. So, I sit there, my mind wanders, I come back. When I come back, I used to say, oh, you messed up again, your mind was wandering. Now when I come back, I say, oh, isn't this wonderful? Once again, I've come back. So that's what I have to say about mind wandering. And everybody who's talking here should talk about their mind wandering if it does, so that the newcomer doesn't think there's something wrong with them because their mind's wandering. That's my 2 cents. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Tom. That's exactly it.
Gaurav, I think you are telling something. You are trying to tell something, Gaurav. You are there, Gaurav?
yes. Yeah. What I was kind of adding to everybody's kind of conversation is I meditate every day, and I try to do my ceaseless prayers all the time, but the quality of meditation is not same every day. It's impossible.
That's
Like,
true.
and you will obviously get distracted. Your mind's going to fly off somewhere, but I think just keep at it. That's
Continue to go on. Never give up. Never give up.
Exactly. Never give up. Just
It's
make
like
it
mind management.
It's like it's a habit. I'm going to engage this. I'm going to do this Upasana for this much time every day, and that consistency is most important.
And offer all your thoughts, like Brother
Oh,
said, everything to divine, everything to the divine lotus feet. That's it.
Yeah.
I offer my thoughts, my good, bad, evil, ugly, everything. I'm offering to you, and then keep continuing.
Yes, if I'm feeling any negative thoughts, if I'm feeling any sort of jealousy, just give it to mom. That's it.
They will all go away after several, maybe months, years. It may take some people days, months.
Thank you so much.
Decades, probably.
But one confession from me, they have not all gone away.
Oh,
it will take a long time, Tom. They keep on coming.
I'm 73 years old. I'm going to be 74 in 2 days.
Oh, fantastic.
That happens to all of us.
And they have not all gone away.
No, they
I don't
won't.
think myself as being a failure because I've had moments of amazing, wonderful experiences. Those moments will come. But
Mhm.
I got all kinds of mess in my mind also.
We all get it,
But
Tom.
it's
We all
all-
get it.
and we need to know that life is only a snapshot of the whole thing. We don't even know how big the thing is. The soul is limitless, infinite. So it's only a little portion we are looking into this life. So, yep, that's all.
Thank you, Jyoti, for wonderful lecture video you gave us.
Yes.
Just
Thank
so
you. Thank
so-
you all for
so
staying with
grateful.
us
So grateful.
Yeah.
and for just being together. It's really,
Yeah,
Sangha is really important for me, and
for all of us. For
just
all-
helps to strengthen my resolve around these things that we talk about, to know that I'm not alone.
This is like a fertilizer to our souls, spirituality, spiritual journey. It's a fertilizer. We're fertilizing every week more and more and more. I hope we can continue to do that until brother joins us. So that would be nice.
Thanks to Jyoti to contribute this. She thought of something to engage all of us so that we are in this satsang. Thank you for that, Jyoti.
So does anyone else have anything before we sign off? Okay, well, thank you all.
Thank you very, very much.
Thank you all.
Hi.
Very productive.
Thanks, everyone.
Jai
Love
Ma.
you all.
Jai Ma.
Have a good day.
Thank you.
Have a great
Bye-bye.
bye.
Let's pray for Brother Shankara that he may
Yes.
hail and heart.
Yes.
Yes.
We all will.
May you be well and in bright spirits. May
Yes.
you be healthy. May you have peace of mind. May you go in Thakur Ma's loving and protective embrace.
Thank you, Jyoti.
Jai Ma. Jai Ma.
Closing. Great closing.
Thank you.
Jai
Good night. I mean, good day.